Hi there, it's Tuesday 24th of November 2020, continuing to look at the life of Jesus day after day, all the way up to Christmas time. And Jesus, of course, is the most wonderful person who has ever lived. And his friend Mark, one of the disciples, wrote about his life. And we're picking up the story in Mark's Gospel, chapter 4, verse 1. Again, Jesus began to teach by the lake. The crowd that gathered round him was so large that he got into a boat and sat in it out on the lake while all the people were along the shore at the water's edge. And he taught them many things by parables. Everybody agrees, even people who don't believe that Jesus was and is God in human flesh, God's Son, they would at least concede that Jesus was a great teacher. Perhaps even atheists might say that Jesus was a great teacher. And he taught many things and taught us many things that are part of our society today. Even people who are not Christians and are not followers of Jesus actually live by many of the things that Jesus taught unknowingly. Things like loving one another. It's something which even modern societies that don't have God at their heart would still say it's a good thing to love one another. And all of these kind of teachings are come from Jesus. Because of course all truth lies in Jesus. He was and is the way, the truth and the life, and so all truth comes from Jesus ultimately. So Jesus is an amazing teacher. But it's what's interesting that he says that he taught them many things by parables. Well, we know parables, these are the stories that are told that have meanings within them. And of course there are many people through history, people like Aesop, who taught fairy tales as we call them, but they were really parables. They're stories with meanings in them, and we use those to teach our children even today, reading bedtime stories, but they are teaching our children truths about life. So Jesus taught these stories, these parables. Why did he teach them in parables? Well, everybody likes a story pretty much, I think. Stories are easy to remember. The society that Jesus was in wasn't a society where things were written down quite so much. Most often they were told. The teachings and things that were taught were passed on orally. And so people could remember stories and go home and tell them to their family and say, I heard this story from Jesus today. What an amazing story. Here it is. And they could learn through it and get the point of the story. So, here's one of the stories that Jesus told. He says, listen, a farmer went out to sow his seed. And of course, an agricultural society that he was in at the time, there would have been farmers probably in the horizon where Jesus was even sitting. And they could see and understand exactly what he was talking about. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell in rocky places where it didn't have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow, but when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they were withered because they had no roots. Other seed fell among the thorns, which grew up and choked the plants so that they did not bear grain. And other seed fell in good soil, and it came up and grew and produced a crop, multiplying 30, 60, even 100 times. And then Jesus said, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. So everybody understood what Jesus was talking about, farmer sowing his seed, landing in different places. What's that all about? Jesus says, if you've got ears to hear, you'll hear. What he was saying is, you need to get under this story. You need to get into the heart of it. You need to listen for the truth. There's so many words spoken in our world today, aren't there? You can turn on the television, you can look at the news, you can go to YouTube, you can go to BBC News website, wherever, and you can read all kinds of stories that say all kinds of things. Lots of things, of course, are written about coronavirus today. There's a vaccination coming, there's not a vaccination coming. It's coming really soon, it's going to come in a long time. We're going to need one vaccine, we're going to need lots of vaccinations. It's going to last for 6 months, it's going to last for a year, it's going to last for who knows how long. We're going to need to have it over and over again. Well, we might only have it once. It might work for the over 60s, it might not work so well on the over 60s. You can read and hear 1,000 stories and 1,000 conflicting stories at that. So how in the world do we know what the truth is? And Jesus was saying, well, if you've got the Spirit, you've got the ears to hear, you'll hear what the truth is. If you have discernment, if you have wisdom, if you have a spiritual understanding, if you have a relationship that is close to God and close to Jesus, then he is the supreme teacher. Remember, he is the truth. So he can teach you what the truth is if you listen to Jesus. So when you hear a news story or whatever it is you're hearing, or from friends or family, people saying things, relating things to you, don't just take it all. Don't be gullible. Don't swallow the whole thing down in a whinny. Apply that gift of spiritual discernment. Listen carefully for the truth within that story. And there might be a little bit of truth, or there might be a lot of truth. But ask the Lord Jesus, Jesus, will you speak to me? What's true about this? And if you're not so sure, just leave it with Jesus. Say, right, Jesus, I don't know if that's true or not, but I'll leave that with you. And I ask you to show me in the days to come what may be true through that. And the Bible promises that he will lead you by his Spirit into all truth. God bless you. Speak to you again tomorrow.